Well, hello, and welcome to the Power 365 show. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing a long-term ISV, Heidi Tucker, from InsideView to discuss managing relationship with Microsoft, changes in the licensing structure recently, AppSource, the platform, all these kind of things that are in flux at the moment for ISVs. Now, I recorded this podcast before Business Application Summit. In fact, close to getting on a flight and off there myself. But this will be published after that point. So any reference we make to that, just letting you know that it was recorded beforehand. But, Heidi is an amazing lady. I've interviewed her a couple of times. She's a vice president of global alliances at InsideView. If we discuss anything around referencing, whether it be books, etc. like that, we will absolutely put it in the show notes. So nz365guy.com/107 is where you'll find any links to things that we discussed. But it is now time to get on with the show, so let's do this. Hey Heidi, welcome to the Power 365 show.
Thanks, Mark. Really happy to be here.
Good to have you on air. I remember interviewing you back in 2014 on camera. From memory, it was at a Convergence conference, and it was the first time I met you. You've obviously been in the ISV system for some time, and I really want to drill into the impact you've had across your career. But before we go there, tell us a bit about where you live, what are your hobbies, what do you currently do when you're kind of not working?
Oh, that's a good question. So I live in Seattle, Kirkland actually, which is very close to Redmond, near Microsoft headquarters, and it's a beautiful state. Washington is just, especially this time of the year, it's just enormously beautiful, and it's especially for those people that like the outdoors. And so when I'm not working, I love to do anything outdoorsy, from hiking, biking, running, skiing, you name it.
Okay. So would you say you're a fitness fanatic?
I wouldn't say a fanatic. I would just say I love the outdoors, and I'm very fortunate to live in a beautiful place where I can enjoy it. Nice.
You're not into CrossFit then?
No, I'm not.
They're the fanatics, right?
Yeah. I do my little trot through the neighborhood every morning just to stay in shape, but I'm not a fanatic.
Nice. Now, in doing my bit of research on you, I see that you're potentially, well, I'm pretty confident you're a lover of wine. Can you tell us a bit about, your other career? And nightwines.com, I see, is a website that I think you might be involved in.
That's right. Well, if you want to talk about being fanatical, I'm fanatical about wine. I do love enjoying all different kinds of wine, and have been fortunate to live in a state that makes a lot of wine. Night Wines is actually a project that my partner Scott and I have been working on for a few years, and it's a Napa Valley wine brand. And we have 3 different wines: a Cabernet Sauvignon, and a Reserve Merlot, and a Chardonnay. And we love to hold tastings so that people can try our different wines and see the enjoyment that we get out of it. And a night is really about just those memories that you create with friends and family over wine at night. And that's how we came up with the name.
I like it. The third wine you mentioned there was a
Chardonnay.
A Chardonnay. Is it oaked?
Yes, it's all done in French oak barrels. It's a very balanced Chardonnay. It's not overly buttery or oaky. Some of our barrels are neutral and some are 1-year-old, but it is a barrel fermented Chardonnay. Nice.
Oh, I do enjoy the odd wine from time to time. I've got a cousin he's a wine connoisseur, and we're just after BizApp Summit, which I know you're going to next week. And I will as well, although this podcast, of course, will come out after that, is we're off to France, to Bordeaux, to, spend a bit of time sampling a lot of the local vintage. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, maybe if I see you at BizApp Summit, I just might have a little bit of night wines with me. And so you can try that before you head off to France.
Sounds awesome. Yeah. I love it. Anyhow, you work for InsideView, which is one of Microsoft has had a relationship with InsideView for some years. And, you're, in my experience of working around the industry, you're a common or well-known brand in this space. Tell us about your current role and what's involved in it.
Sure. My current role is Vice President of Global Alliances at InsideView, which is just a fancy way of saying I basically manage all of our strategic alliances and partnerships. Microsoft is a very important partner of ours. We've been a partner since 2010, so that's almost 10 years. And our partnership has evolved through a variety of different forms, but it's been very, very productive for both of us over that long period of time.
So tell us a bit about what InsideView does. What's the value to a customer? Why would they buy your product? What do they use it for?
Sure. InsideView is a customer and market intelligence platform, which essentially means that we have data that we acquire about companies and their key decision makers from all over the world. And companies, most companies need that kind of data to do a couple things. They need it to keep their CRM or their marketing database clean. So there's a data hygiene component of making sure that you always have the most current real-time data in your workflow systems. Second thing is companies and salespeople actually need it to perform more productively when they're engaging with customers. Customers do so much research now on their own that if they end up talking to a sales rep that hasn't done their homework, they just don't have any patience for that. And so we try to help salespeople have better business conversations and be more informed so that they can ultimately win more deals.
Yeah. So, I see that's definitely even one of Microsoft's win themes at the moment around sales, customer engagement. And for sales is this whole idea that a customer these days, just if you show up and don't know the answer to information that's available out there, it's really poor form. So I take it that's the type of information you're providing that's available in various either online or other data sources that you've acquired over time.
Right. We used to say that if in the olden days, if you went out and you visited a business, that it showed a lot of sensitivity to say, tell me about your business. It showed that you were really interested in learning more. But today, if you show up and say, tell me about your business, you might as well just put a sign on your forehead that says, I'm not prepared, or I didn't do my homework. And so that's, we want to avoid that. We don't want to be wasting anybody's time. And honestly, a lot of salespeople don't take the time to prepare. So if you're one of the few that actually does spend a few minutes learning about the business issues or the key executives or what makes that company tick, what's going on in their industry, then you'll set yourself apart from everybody else that's out there, and you'll most likely win more deals.
It makes sense. So what industries are you commonly seeing using your technology? I assume that, it pretty much would apply to most companies, but is there any kind of industries that you see or geographies that you're seeing greater demand for your technology?
Yeah, I would say that really any company that is engaged in a B2B or selling to other businesses would find a lot of value in our data. Those companies that are focused on selling to more strategic or relationship-based customers probably would find more value than those that are purely transactional. So it would be financial services, consulting, manufacturing, transportation, telco. Most of those are engaged in more relationship selling, and that's really where we excel.
So where do you see kind of the growth in the next 18 months? And I'm not necessarily talking about with your product, but in the industry, what are you kind of the trends that you're seeing? And if you like the B2B type businesses, how are they adopting technology more in this space?
Yeah, I think one of the trends that we're seeing is that B2B and B2C are not exclusive channels anymore, that you may be the head of marketing for a company, but you're still shopping online to buy personal things, or and so there are multiple channels. I think companies that are selling B2B these days have to be more aware of all of the different touch points where they can reach their audience. And so that makes it a much more complex situation for a marketer than it was a few years ago. And so one of the ways that we try to help with that is we help identify the personas, and then we help our customers see where are those personas engaging in different aspects of their personal or their business life. And that's a really dynamic industry, I guess, now, trying to figure out where people are and where you can best deliver messages to them that resonate.
Yeah. I hear a term a colleague used recently called people to people, where we've had B2B and B2C. We're seeing much more people to people, and therefore you need to know people, or, people expect you to know stuff about them, so much more with the age of the internet than they did in the past. So I think it's a good definition.
I think that is really important. I haven't heard the P2P before, but we've heard P2P and partner to partner within the Microsoft ecosystem, but not person to person or people to people.
Person to person, people to people, yeah. So much, heavily based on relationship and, a customer, or rather than an industry that indicates thousands of people, maybe. It's basically everybody wants to be uniquely engaged with, nowadays more than ever, a tailored experience, if you like.
Yeah, but not so tailored that it's creepy. And that's the fine line.
The fine line
you have to work. I mean, it used to be that you'd have the 3 martini lunch, or you'd be out on the golf course, and that was how you built trust in a relationship. And now, with the global economy, you can't do that. You have to figure out, how do you establish trust when you're communicating with people online or just over the phone. So
yeah. So recently there's some changes that went on in how Microsoft embedded your product, and I just had a colleague reach out to me the other day and said, listen, I see InsideView is not available automatically, in North America. Can I still use Dynamics as a partner? Can I still sell it? Not Dynamics, InsideView, can I still sell it? Can we still talk to our customers about it? And I know that in many of the demos that I've done in the past, I always would have InsideView in there, because the customers instantly would light up when you could drop a few details in and then have it come back with, hey, here's the fields all filled out, which would have typically just been a data entry type process. So what's the story? I understand that, Microsoft's going in a certain direction and they're not necessarily embedding it, but is it still available, and how do people still get access, both partners and customers alike, to your technology?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for asking that question, because there has been a certain amount of confusion about the change. So for the last 6 years, Microsoft has generously subsidized the cost of InsideView for every Dynamics 365 customer. And after that amount of time, Microsoft has decided not to subsidize it anymore. But InsideView Insights is still alive and well. It's on AppSource, and you can absolutely install it just exactly the way it always has been, except that now the customers will have a license contract with us instead of having it bundled in with their Dynamics license.
Excellent. So nothing's changed around the product as such. It's still available. It's just that, as companies go through their evolution, this change has come about.
Right. Exactly. So, and I think if you go to AppSource under sales, and then sales intelligence, I think InsideView is still the first tile that will pop up if you're in D365 sales. So it should be pretty easy to find. And then customers can also email at us at Microsoft@insideview.com. And that's another way just to easily get through to us if they have questions about their current license or something they'd like in the future.
Excellent. Okay, so the good resources for people there. Of course, these links will be in the show notes. But tell us about, I'm very interested. I've been doing a lot of study lately on AI and the future and what that means. And one of the key things that in assessing an AI opportunity or an organization that wants to go down that path comes down to data quality. And I know, in using your technology in the past, it was more about acquisition of new, fresh data in. But there's a lot of people that have data sitting in their systems that's not of a high quality. How do you address that with your technology, and are you seeing a demand for that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it goes without saying that if you have a CRM system, you have dirty data. It's just no way around that. So it's important to figure out how to get the data clean, because most companies dramatically underestimate the cost of dirty data. it's kind of a hidden cost. It's not something that, you see. It manifests itself in poor results for marketing campaigns or salespeople wasting time. So those aren't things that are as easily quantifiable as if you have to write a check to clean your data. But Microsoft has come out with some really great AI products recently. Sales AI is one that's just a very modern version of lead scoring and many other things. But none of that is going to be effective unless you're running it on clean data. And so our role in that, we feel is really important, is to help companies figure out how to clean their data one time. I like to say they can ship it out and put it into the data washing machine and then have it shipped back so that it's all clean. And when I say clean, I mean it's the data, missing fields are appended, duplicates are flagged and removed, fields that have strange characters in them are removed or flagged. So when you have clean data to start off with, you have about 1 day of clean data unless you employ a solution that keeps it clean ongoing, because data decays very, very quickly. So getting it clean one time is important, and then to integrate a solution like a data refresh or an auto enrichment solution that automatically keeps your data clean on an ongoing basis.
Yeah. So as we move into this era of AI then, and if you like, we're going to train algorithms on our data. What are you doing differently as an organization to, if you like, be involved in that AI discussion going forward?
Well, I think a lot of it is dependent upon companies to make the choice to get their data clean. Some of the most popular AI solutions that are available today are things like propensity to buy models, or help me identify my ideal customer profile and then show me lookalike companies that look just like those. Those are all highly effective AI solutions. But again, in order to employ those, you need to have your data set clean to get those to work effectively.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So in looking at ISVs, tell us a bit about, I'm interested because you're kind of like a super ISV, right? Independent software vendor.
Thank you. Thank you.
How is that journey being? You've been in the organization a long time. You're saying was around 10 years you've been as a partner with Microsoft. What has been that journey like for you? What changes have you seen on that journey?
Well, there have been a lot of changes, and I would just say not to dwell on the past, because I think right now is the very best time to be an ISV at Microsoft. I think that Microsoft has just come out with a new program to support ISVs. They're recruiting many ISV account managers to help ISVs figure out how to navigate the Microsoft ecosystem. I think one of the things that has changed over time is that Microsoft now has a better understanding of the contribution that ISVs make to their ecosystem. Whereas before, it was really obvious how a systems integrator or a reseller contributed to the ecosystem because there was hard cash flowing back, license revenue to Microsoft. ISVs didn't necessarily sell Microsoft services, but they provided integration tools that enhanced Microsoft products. And so those integrations create more stickiness, more customer satisfaction, because there's a lot more that they can do with their CRM, for example, and other Microsoft products. Even just strategically having solutions that make Microsoft products more competitive with their competitors, that's another reason another way that ISVs contribute. And so all of these, I think, are more clear now to the partner teams at Microsoft than they have been ever before. So it's a good time to be an ISV.
So you mentioned the new ISV program. What do you know about it so far, and what are your thoughts on it?
Well, for those of us that have been around a long time, it sort of seems like a tax on the revenue that you generate through the Microsoft ecosystem. But in reality, it's really an investment. And I think ISVs need to be able to see that the percentage that they're going to pay Microsoft on the revenue they generate through that ecosystem is then used to further invest in ISV success. And I think it'll be pretty easy for ISVs to see over the course of the next 6 to 18 months whether or not that rev share that they're paying back to Microsoft then comes back to them in terms of an enhanced working relationship and more access to Microsoft customers and more a priority that Microsoft SSPs or salespeople place on working with ISVs because they're getting a little piece of it as well. So it's a little bit of a wait and see. And certainly for new ISVs, they've never known it any other way. So it's really great for them. But those of us that have been around a long time will want to make sure that those investments do pay off for us.
Exactly. So, the biggest feedback I've had is from ISVs that have been established a long time. So they've got a good solid customer base. Let's say they're doing upwards of, 5 million a year off having a product that works with Dynamics or the Power Platform. And the concern they have is they've spent all the effort to develop their customer base. And are they automatically, they're now going to get turned around and taxed for every implementation of the technology of their solution, within an environment. New ISVs coming to the market, of course, they're quite excited about it because they're hoping that they're going to see this massive traffic uptake. Now, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. If you're new, I don't think new ISVs should be delusional and think just because they're paying a rev share that there will be a tidal wave of new business. Being an ISV is a lot of hard work, and it's not for the weak of heart. So I think one piece of advice that I have for other ISVs is start with what you can do for the ecosystem. What can you do to help Microsoft be more successful, instead of looking at what can Microsoft do for you? Because I think the ISVs that start with what they can do to help are likely to be much more successful and build better partner relationships within the ecosystem. But those that have been around a while, it's a significant amount of revenue. Now, I will say, in Microsoft's defense, all their competitors are doing it as well. Salesforce and Google and Amazon. I mean, they're all doing a similar ISV program. So I think it's the way of the world, and I think that we as existing or longstanding ISVs need to help Microsoft make this successful and make sure that in our efforts to help them make it successful, that we're able to see our businesses grow well beyond the amount of the rev share that we have to pay. Yeah.
So true. So, and I don't know whether your role has you involved in it, but AppSource, what do you know about the existing AppSource marketplace that we have at the moment? And of course, we know that there's going to be some major changes of what been announced on the new ISV program. But what's your experience been from our quality of leads, etc., that have come through from that to date?
I would say it's mixed. I think that there are a lot of what we call looky-loos. They're just checking out the marketplace and seeing what's there. I think the marketplace initially, the leads were less complete, and Microsoft has been able to provide more complete information about leads now than what we had before. So it makes it a little bit easier to qualify them in or out quickly. But it's evolving, and I think investments that they can make in the quality of leads, helping to make it maybe even a little more difficult to get through to a partner, but in the process, we're weeding out those that really aren't serious buyers. But making sure that when the lead does come through, that it's got good, complete information and we can act on it right away.
Yeah. Okay. So good. So good. So what does it take to be in a successful ISV based on your history?
A lot of tequila. No, I'm kidding. No. I should say a lot of wine, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how I got into the wine business, working in the Microsoft ecosystem for a long time. I think it takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of tenacity. It takes a great attitude. it's a willingness to build for long-term success, as opposed to thinking that somebody owes you something, or that, especially that Microsoft has all these customers and they owe you an introduction, or they owe you. It's really about how do we all work together to make the whole ecosystem vibrant and successful. It's the rising tide concept, and that's what I've always believed, that the more we can all work together and try to help Microsoft form the best ISV ecosystem in the market, that we will all benefit from doing that.
Yeah, so true. So what things does it take what does an ISV need to do really well? In other words, what rhythms, what patterns do they need to build into their business as part of their business model for success?
One of the most important things is customer reference. So Microsoft salespeople and partners want to represent ISVs that deliver a consistently effective and reliable solution. And there are many customers that are willing to share their experience and say why this ISV helped their business be more successful. And so I think that's really important, especially across across Microsoft's most important verticals. So, for example, InsideView is a horizontal data and intelligence solution. So we have data about every company on the planet, but we are used differently by FinServ companies, or we're used differently by somebody who's managing their supply chain versus somebody that's reaching out to prospect for new customers. So we may have the same solution, but when we try to work with Microsoft partners or customers, we want to make sure that we're tailoring that message so that they understand for the vertical they're going after how we specifically help. So I think that's one big thing. I also think that being present and being highly responsive are really important. When somebody at Microsoft contacts us as an ISV, they have a customer or a deal on the line. We can't take 2 days to get back to them. We need to get back to them within 2 hours. We need to be highly responsive and make sure that we understand where they're coming from and we can get the answers they need immediately.
Yeah, so true, so true. Is there anything, what about, going global? Any recommendations to ISVs that, and let's say they build a product, they've been, let's say, located in North America, and then they decide they want to move into Europe or the APAC region or something like that. What's your recommendation, or what do you got to do differently when you just start to expand your global footprint?
Well, I think that's where the whole Microsoft ecosystem is your best advantage, because Microsoft is a partner ecosystem. Virtually 100% of what they sell is all sold through partners. And so I wouldn't think of moving into a new geography as a direct sales force. I would leverage the partners in those markets that already have trusted relationships with their customers, and they understand the economy and the regulations and all of that. So I think that's really where Microsoft shines as an ecosystem, is because of the extensive partner ecosystem that can help you as an ISV expand into geographies.
Very good, very good. So how do you maintain a good relationship with Microsoft as an ISV?
That's a great question. I think that a lot of it has to do with making sure you have the right relationships. You have relationships with the product team. You have relationships with the partner, with the OCP organization. That you have strong relationships with the systems integrators and the resellers. And when I say strong relationships, it's not just a meet and greet and, you go hang out at the BizApp Summit. It's, are you delivering value? Do you have customer references? Are you, helping them do their day job better? Yeah, I always say that nobody really cares about an ISV as much as the ISV does. And the way that we can help them care more is to help them be more successful at whatever their day job is. So a systems integrator makes money selling services, implementation services. They don't really care about selling ISV solutions unless those ISVs are delivering more value to their customers and helping them build more services revenue. And so I think what it really takes is making sure that you understand the business value that you're delivering to all those different groups within the ecosystem, and then maintaining those relationships. Make sure that they're aware of the business value that you are delivering.
So that leads into a discussion then on partners specifically, and you talked about their that they get additional service revenue. So it's not just about the license being sold. Sometimes ISV products I see used to get a deal over the line, maybe in a competitive situation, but then there's the ongoing work or, services type work that can be generated off that ISV product in place. How do you engage? What have you found effective engaging the Microsoft Partner Network effectively? And yeah.
Yeah, most of the systems integrators, at least the larger ones, they have somebody in the organization that manages ISV relationships. And if it's a smaller SI, then they might not have a dedicated person. It might just be their head of sales or somebody in marketing. But I think that if you can engage with that role and you understand that their entire business is services revenue business, and you don't go into that conversation thinking about how great my software product is and they should be so happy to sell it to every one of their customers, that's just not going to go over well. They don't see it that way. They get hit up by hundreds of ISVs every year wanting them to sell their services. And the ones that they gravitate to are probably a very few number that have a solution that their customers where their customers have a problem and the ISV can solve it. It's very unlikely for an SI to go out on a limb and try to recommend an ISV solution if their customer has not asked for it. So whether it's marketing automation or data hygiene or quoting or forecasting, whatever it happens to be, if the customer has that problem, then the ISV will go and find the solution. And if you've built a good relationship with the SI, then the SI is going to think of your solution when the customer has that need.
Yeah. So for those SIs, are there any SIs that you're seeing across the globe that do things differently that move ISV products more? And when I say move, you would be able to, if you like, rank your SIs of who moves more of your ISV product than other SIs. What are the habits that those SIs are doing, or what are the patterns they've got in their business that cause them to recommend your software solution more?
I think they're ones that have a certain focus. So, for example, if you are focused on financial services, then those SIs, they know the strategic partners that deliver value to financial services companies. And they will probably just focus on a small number of ISVs that speak that language, that have reference accounts, and they will rely on those partners. There are some partners, now more CSP partners, where they're taking Microsoft products on their own paper, that are more willing to bundle a solution set of Microsoft products and ISVs, and they just go into every deal with that solution set, because as a bundle, kind of like Microsoft did for so many years with InsideView, that bundle provides them with strategic advantage over Salesforce or over other Microsoft competitors that aren't selling that bundle of services. So I think those are a couple of ways that certain SIs are more supportive of ISVs than others. Okay.
What about channels to market? You've talked about Microsoft being a channel to market. You've talked about the Microsoft Partner Network. Microsoft Partners being a channel to market. Are there others that need to be considered?
Others within the Microsoft ecosystem, or
no.
Other
Other channels to market. So, are you finding that you're educating customers directly, and therefore then customers are going to SIs and saying, or maybe in the RFP saying, we need this kind of, we need this data cleansing to happen, or we need to have basically what you as an ISV provide. So, do you find that apart from engaging with the partner network, engaging with Microsoft, what other channels do you see ISVs need to get right to engage their market?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that it has to be a balanced go-to-market strategy that includes what we've already talked about, which is working through Microsoft field salespeople and Microsoft partners, but also balancing that out with online advertising, with events and trade shows, with publishing content about, in our case, we publish a lot of content about the cost of dirty data, how important it is to get your data clean so that you
So like research content, is that right?
Yeah, research content that then, we publish on our website and we hold webinars. We're trying to drive people back to our website. So one, they can get educated and, they understand how, once you learn about these issues, then you'll want to solve those issues, hopefully solve them with us. But, at the very least, you'll be educated on why having clean data is so important and why dirty data is so costly and why having intelligence about your customers and prospects will dramatically increase your sales productivity compared to just letting your salespeople fend for themselves and do their own research, which wastes a lot of their time. So I think, whether it's LinkedIn ads or it's trade shows or it's webinars or it's publishing content, ABM strategy is a buzzword that you hear a lot, where companies are selecting a smaller number of companies, and then they're trying to hit key personas of those companies in many different channels so that they can influence their likelihood to want to do business with us.
What does ABN stand for?
Account-based marketing.
Okay, account-based marketing.
Yeah, it's a newer term for something that I think we've all been doing for a long time, which is selling wider within a few organizations rather than trying to, spray and pray, going after thousands of organizations, but only an inch deep.
Yeah. So if I gave you $5 million tomorrow to spend on marketing your ISV, and you're only allowed to choose one thing to put all that money into, what would you invest it in? And this is really a time-based thing, right? It's based on what you know of the market now and what's working.
Wow, that's really putting me on the spot. If I had $5 million.
You could only choose one way of going to market, yeah.
I would put it into the partner channel. I think that $5 million spent building really solid, trusted relationships with these partners that already have daily interactions with their customers would be a much more direct and effective way to build a pipeline than using it spent on advertising or something that was more general and less direct.
Yeah, so there's a range of that's interesting that's your target audience. I probably would have thought you would have gone for a digital type channel as your response. So appreciate that. So it does show that the partner channel is a very effective method. I'm interested about events. So, you're easily going to drop between 12 and 15K for a small booth, right? At any of the events, whether it's a user group summit event or whether it's a Microsoft-based event where, they have exhibitor type areas. You've been to a lot of these events over the years. How effective is that exhibition space, and kind of what is, I see people standing at their booths and people are just walking by and not engaging in that type of thing. How do you go to events and be effective as an exhibitor?
Yeah, I think they're very effective,
Great.
but they're very effective on multiple fronts. You have to be very clear about what your objectives are in going into those events. So one is just brand awareness. And so that, in some ways, that's the measure of that is how many people see your brand, how many impressions are you getting from people that are there. And those impressions could be partners, they could be Microsoft executives, they could be Microsoft field folks or customers. And then how many actual lead scans are you getting and how effectively are you following up? The most effective partners that I see are ones that follow up during the show. So they don't gather all their leads and then follow up 2 weeks later.
Exactly.
They're actually doing daily, nightly follow up with the people and inviting them to some other event the next day or 2 days later at the show.
Wow. That's that there. Anybody listening, that there is a very hot insight that it needs to be acted on if you're exhibiting. I like it. Anything else?
Yeah. I think those that have one or two of their successful customers at the booth with them. So anytime they're talking about the value prop that they're offering, they can say, well, we also have XYZ company here who's been our customer, and maybe they switch from one competitor to another, but they tell the story and they validate what the ISV is saying. It's going to go over a lot better when it's coming from a customer than it is from us just telling that story.
I like it. What about things like brand awareness after the event? Kind of like what are the little giveaways, the merch, that type of thing? What have you found over the years works effectively to make sure your brand is sitting back in the office of the people, that came along to the event?
Well, I think things that have some staying power on a desktop, something that's visible. For a while it was water bottles, but I think we all have so many thousands of water bottles now. I'm not sure that's the most effective thing. And then it was the little mirrors that you would attach to your monitor, so you could see when your boss was coming down the hallway. So I don't know what the latest swag is that's really hot and popular, but I think things that are visible that give you your audience a constant reminder. I'm a big fan of things that have real value, not like little squishy things that get thrown away or given to your dog or your kid when you get home. So things that, I think a lot of the chargers, the cell phone chargers and things like that. Now they're more expensive, so maybe you have fewer of them. But there are things like that, and I think you have to do something differently. Over the years, there have been a few things that we've done at InsideView that have really been quite different than other software companies. And those are some of the most valuable years that where we had a booth and it was very different looking. And so then it stood out and people remembered that. But you have to also be willing to be really creative and going out on a limb. Some companies feel like that maybe doing something that's very creative is a departure from their brand, and they don't feel as comfortable doing that.
Can you give us some examples?
Well, one year we had a 20-foot booth that had, it was all black, but it had huge red lips all over it. So think of Rocky Horror Picture Show type lips or Rolling Stone type lips. And it said, InsideView, making CRM sexy again.
Nice.
And, there wasn't a huge tie-in between how we were making CRM sexy and the solutions that we were selling. It's just the fact that we did not look like any other software booth in that entire exhibition hall. And we were packed. We had so many people coming over just wondering why we had lips all over our booth. And so it just was a way for us to break out of the crowd.
Yeah. So that kind of leads into then how do you, one, train your staff to engage on the floor and sorry, I've gone down this path, but I find it quite intriguing because I see so many people kind of burning money and not really getting value for it, but they don't know how to exhibit effectively because they only might do it once a year, they might not be frequent, attendees. And I've just seen so many loaded booth with people and nobody in front of them. But because the staff just don't know how to, if you like, I wouldn't say pull people in, but, engage. They go and send their engineers or something to stand on them that are not necessarily highly engaged people persons and wonder why nobody stops and, has a conversation. So, is there anything you do around training your staff to be effective on exhibition day?
Yeah, picking the right people for those roles and training them is hugely important. And I've been to hundreds of shows. One day I thought I should have kept all my badges because I've been to so many different shows. But you do have to jump out in the aisle and engage people. If you're sitting there on a stool, and I would not advocate having stools in your booth at all because people will sit on them if you have them. Make the the booth shift short enough that you have people there that are excited to be there. They're armed with great questions that they can ask people walking by. It doesn't have to be anything about your product. It could be, where are you from? Or, where did you get that backpack? Or it could be anything, just something. Because people know that when they're walking down the aisle that they're going to be hounded by, it's like running a gauntlet. You're going to be hounded. But in reality, I would say at least half of the booths have people sitting on chairs in the booth and they're not out there engaging. They're either tired or they haven't been trained how to do it. So you got to have fun. It's, it's like the flight attendants for Southwest. They gained such a reputation for being fun and engaging. And that's really all it is. People just want to have, they want to talk to somebody that they think is going to be fun and engaging. And they'll give you a few minutes to talk about your solution if if you have a good approach. So we do a lot of training up front. We get, we get people that have a lot of energy, are really excited to be there. They don't see this as drudgery. And then we do a huddle, and we break, and we get in front of the booth. And
I love it. I love it. I've learned so much. Heidi. I look forward to catching up with you again next week. But before we go, let's do a few quick fire questions just out of left field. Okay. Is there anything you're reading or watching or listening to lately that you would recommend to people?
I've been reading a lot and watching a lot on cybersecurity and AI these days. So I think that's, there's the pace of change is staggering, and I find it a bit scary, but I think I'd rather be knowledgeable about it than unaware of the changes that are coming.
So do you have any particular books that jump out in your mind, or is it just general research?
It's just general when I'm in the car, whatever I just happen to land on.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. What's one piece of tech that will transform the future in your mind?
One form of tech that would transform the future. That is a good question. Oh yeah. Well, so the self-driving car, for sure. I have one of those that is semi-self-driving, and every time it veers a little askew, I'm reminded that we're not exactly there yet in terms of fully autonomous driving. But
tell me it's a
sure.
Tesla.
It is, yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I love that guy, Elon. Right? The more I read, the more I research. He's a man for our time. I'm really impressed with him, and just coming up with the whole idea that you can be able to turn your car into, a rideshare service in the future, and the cost points and stuff. Yeah. Awesome. I think just about, everybody in America is getting Teslas these days.
I know. Yeah. Fortunately, they're proliferating the charging stations too, because at the rate that they're delivering cars, it would be hard to get your car charged. But, when I look at what, Satya's message to the world, and Jeff Bezos' message, and Elon Musk's message, these are people that are dramatically changing the world that we live in, and it's happening so rapidly.
Totally. Is there any daily rituals that you have that kind of set you on a path to success?
Well, I go for my run almost every morning, so I get my endorphins going. And if I happen to be in Napa, I like to go for a run through the vineyards. If I'm in Kirkland, I'm running through a nice trail that goes down by the water. And then I have a single grande, half soy, half non-fat latte every single day. Oh my gosh. That's my only...
How did you work that kind of mix out?
Somebody recommended it to me when I went, this was probably 10 years ago, I was ordering a regular latte, and they said, you should try it half soy, half non-fat. And I've had one every day ever since then. So
you're so Seattle.
Yeah, I know, exactly right.
Who do you recommend as a guest for the show in future? Anyone jump to mind?
Yeah, Elon Musk, since we were just talking about him.
Oh, man. The chance of getting that guy on the show is going to be...
Okay, my second recommendation would be Brene Brown. Do you know who she is?
Oh, yeah. She's awesome. Do I know? I just watched a movie she just did. On Netflix did a show special.
Yeah, Call to Courage.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Totally awesome. I read a book last year, one of her books, and... her whole message on vulnerability and the need for businesses to be vulnerable, and that you're going to fail. Nobody really wants to call that out these days, is that, vulnerability comes with failure. And I think, very powerful story.
Yeah, I think the world of her. And I found her latest movie and her book, Call to Lead, is also amazing for business people.
Awesome. I'm going to put that down, Call to Lead. Mm-hmm. We'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Actually, it's Dare to Lead. Sorry, not Call
Dare
to
Lead.
Dare
Dare
to
to
Lead.
Lead. Yeah. Okay. I know it's come through a recommendation from Amazon to me. So, awesome. Okay, it's been great talking to you, Heidi. Heidi, if people want to connect with you online, where's the best place to do that? I know they can attend BizApp Summit to see you in person, but we're online.
That's true. People can get through to me at Microsoft at InsideView.com. That's a general email box that will get through to me. They can follow me on Twitter at Heidi Tucker. And other than that, Facebook, WhatsApp, every other digital social site. LinkedIn is a good one.
Well, there we go. We've done another week and another show. What are your thoughts on AppSource and the changes coming there? What about the insights she talked about around positioning yourself at events? I'd love to hear your feedback. If you could take a moment, leave a comment, leave some feedbacks. Remember, full show notes can be found at nz365guide.com/107. Hey, have a great week.